Yeah, man, totally. Well, here we are, 8:40 a.m. in New Zealand. What time is it over there, John, where you are?
It's coming up on 4 o'clock in Austin, Texas. 4 p.m.
Keeping it weird. I love that place. So this is day 13 of Evolved Conversations with people that have really made an impact in my life and made a lot of impact in their communities. And today is probably one of my most enlightening moments that I had probably 12 months ago. I've heard about Front Row Dads from a number of incredible entrepreneurs. And what's the tagline with Front? I'm going to stuff it up. It's not businessmen with families. It's families with business. Family. No, you go. Sorry, I'm going to butcher it.
No, you were nailing it, man. Family men with businesses, not businessmen with families.
Yeah. So John put this group together. I'll give you. I'll pass it over to him to have a bit more of a chat. But we're at Exchange Week, and he invited some dads just for a casual lunch, and we. It was the first time a part of a conversation. Is it Jefferson style, where you just get one topic, question, and the whole group stays on that topic for an hour and a half, and just how deep men and the vulnerability and empathy for 13 men sitting around the table and dads was pretty amazing. So today we're just going to talk about dads and how this crisis and what John's doing, and I can't wait to be able to bring Front Row Dads down to this part of the world because it's such an incredible community. So, John, maybe just give a bit of a background on why you started Front Row Dads, and then a bit of context around the giving people front row moments with the foundation as well. I'll let you, King, share a bit about it.
Yeah, man. First thing I think is important to mention is that I didn't start Front Row Dads because I was crushing it and wanted to tell everybody what to do. I started Front Row Dads because I was getting crushed and wanted help. And, this was back in 2016, and it sort of hit me that I had always talked about, when I'm a dad, I'm going to be the best dad that's out there. I'm going to read every book. I'm going to do it right. And then all of a sudden I blink my eyes and I've got a 6-year-old, and I'm like looking at my calendar and realizing I'm still a businessman who happens to have a family. My business always got the best of me. It got my best hours of the day. It got my most creative time. It got my biggest attention and energy. And then, I would figure out how I could not feel totally exhausted trying to engage my son, or even at night being so stressed out, wishing I could just put him to bed so I could get a beer and relax. And I thought, this is not good. This is not how I want it to be. And so I did what I only know how to do, which is when I want to learn something, I surround myself with people that are smarter than I am, that have traveled down that road. I'm a big fan of collective wisdom. I'm a big fan of openness and vulnerability and conversation. And hey, let's share what's working. Let's share what's not. And so it was happening in every other area of my life. I wanted to write a book. That's what I did. If I wanted to learn how to be a keynote speaker, it's what I did. But if I said family first, if I said family is the most important thing, then why on earth did I not have any community for family life? Why is it that I thought that I was just supposed to be born a great husband and a great dad, and I should just show up to dinner and be a brilliant father? And loving your kids and spending a little time with them is just not enough. It's not. It's like permission to play in that space. And so we started the group, and it just took off, man. It's like it was a need. People wanted this. They were like, this is the group I've been looking for. And guys wanted a family conversation. It's easy for us to talk business. We gravitate towards how's business, how's it going. We feel like that's a space we can talk about. And maybe even sometimes we don't even feel comfortable asking, how's your marriage? Really, how's your marriage? Or how's it going as a dad? It feels like a little too personal. But so we don't have that space to be able to play. And so that's where Front Row Dads launched. And now it's just taken off, man. It's been great.
And would you say with Front Row Dads and obviously the Front Row Foundation, which we might talk about at the end of the 30 minutes, but it's just holding that safe space for guys to come together, and that gives them that permission to go, okay, it's okay to take my Excalibur down for 24 hours, 48 hours, and just I've got this group of people that are in the same boat. We just want to share and help.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, man. All of this is about creating space for powerful conversation. It's when you think about your best friends in the world, you think about the people that have had the biggest impact on you. Just think about why. Why is that? There's a trust, there's an element of openness, there's a vulnerability. You can say things that you might not say other places. And so what we wanted to do is build brotherhood, because, as I think you're friends with Jim Shields, right? Jim
Yes,
wrote The Family. Okay. So Jim was just, he was at our first ever Front Row Dads retreat. He's a great friend. He's come, onto group calls with our community since day one. But one of the things that he says, and it's something to the effect of like, people are, they're full on content, in many ways, but they're starved for connection and community. And so, look, if you want great ideas, you can spend all day long from morning till night on Google, and you could read the endless amount of books that are available to you. And I think that's all great. And you should Google and read books. But what we really want is brotherhood. We really want connection and community. We really want people that are going to change our lives, and we get to change theirs. And so that's what we want to build. Everything we do is designed to create brotherhood. And no, you're not going to be best friends with everybody. We have 130 members in our group, and you're not going to be best friends with all of them. There's just not enough time. But you'll find a couple of guys that'll change your life. And it's a really cool thing, man. Any room you walk into, any Zoom room that you walk into these days, somebody in that room could change your life forever. You don't know who they are. That's a wonderful curiosity. That's a wonderful place of curiosity to live in. Yeah,
man. Powerful. And I wish things like this were down this part of the world, and we had this conversation about what the audience is tuning into this, and people always ask me the question is like, why do you keep going to North America and joining these masterminds and diving deep into these groups? Because one, I don't know if they're available down here, but it just seems like they're in America and North America, people are just a little bit more open. Is that just that's my generalization, but maybe because I'm surrounded by very open communities. But it's interesting, down this part of the world, we're very backbone is farming, and we were sent here from the UK, and it wasn't a land of opportunity where people step foot, and this came across in a TED talk I listened to a while ago. People that land in North America, they think they've made it, like immigrants and that sort of thing. And like, wow, this is the land of opportunity. I got here, there's so much potential, versus down this way back 100 years ago, people were sent down here because they'd created a crime or stole a sheep in Ireland. We came down here. Is that we've been very built up with DNA of keeping everything close to our chest. Is America, is that the feeling that you get, as a lot of people are open and willing to share, or is it just the communities that we're a part of?
Man, I think in general, it's big enough to where you'll find it all. You find people that are closed off, closed-minded. They are not interested in opening up and being vulnerable. And I think you find just the opposite. And I think it's literally kind of where you spend your time. I happen to have designed the life for me personally that I only am hanging around, for the most part, people that are super open. So I'm really jaded at this point. I live in a bubble. I know that I do. But we could get into a whole conversation about politics and all the different types of people that exist. But I think here's what I believe. I believe that we create our communities. I believe that we seek out our communities, and I believe that I operate by the philosophy of how big is your backyard. I live in Austin, which tends to be a hub of forward-thinking, entrepreneurial type people, and is known for that. I'm a little spoiled here. But at the same time, I think about my world that I live in as being this global community, and how can I shrink the scale in which I see that and see it as my biggest backyard. That if I can look at planet Earth as my backyard, then maybe I can just be a little bit more inclusive and a little more open-minded to how I can play with people. And I tell my kids this all the time. It's like, you don't need other people's permission or participation for you to be awesome, right? So you just keep being you, and you'll attract the people that resonate with that style.
How big is your backyard? I love that. And how nurtured is your backyard?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And what are you feeling right now? Obviously you've got a community of call it the bubble. What are you feeling, and what's been, and this is a John Berghoff question, I'm not recreating it, but it's what are you feeling with, or a great example of humanity right now? Because this world is different to your world right now. We're in 4 weeks of solid lockdown, can't do anything, can't go get a haircut, can't get a coffee, can't do anything, versus what's happening up there. So yeah, what are you feeling, man? What's humanity right now?
I'm feeling a lot, man. I truthfully, like, here's my quick download on that. I've been waking up early. I'm on high alert. My system is saying, this is big. We got to pay attention. There's every part of my entrepreneurial spirit, but also my father spirit, my husband spirit, my family, protect my family. When you see something like this that we've never seen, right? Like, this is a giant global human experiment of what's going to result from this massive shift. And what I feel is on high alert. There are moments when I feel at great peace with this whole thing, because I feel like, look, there's lots of theories about why this is happening, right? There's the conspiracy theories, and this is it, and these are the aliens that are taking over the world, whatever it is, right? I get that. And here's what I think I actually tend to go back to nature and say, I actually think this is more about a balancing of nature at its core, and that this is nature's fight for life. And this is a system of life looking to move forward of different forms, right? And a rebalancing. That's how I see it. Whoever's the mastermind behind it, or whatever that conversation is, I just think that this is a great rebalancing. And from that perspective, I surrender to a bigger balancing act than I could potentially control with one Zoom call, as an example. So I'm very much surrendering to that. And there's another part of it where I'm on just the opposite side, where I'm thinking about how exposed I am. I'm thinking about the health of a system and that what it can sustain. So as an example, somebody who's unhealthy in their body that goes in for a surgery has a far greater likelihood of not making it out of surgery. Yeah. So when you are going to disrupt a system, when you are going to challenge something, when you are going to throw a new substantial weight at something or somebody to see if it can sustain it, the health of that system is so important of whether or not it can make it through. And all I've been doing is, my feeling has been, what does real health look like from a financial perspective? How much money should I really have in the bank? From a food perspective, how much food is radical stockpiling and hoarding the system? And what's an appropriate amount of food just to protect your family? Like, do you have an ability to, do you feel that if something were majorly disrupted, a reasonable disruption, if you will, are you okay? Can you sustain that? And so all it's gotten me a chance to do is take inventory on my life and ask what's really important, and then ask what real health looks like. I love that, because honestly, I'm really getting things dialed in, and for that, I'm really grateful.
What's your definition of health then? What you've had some time, and I love the whole taking inventory of where the system is at, and the system has multiple pegs to it: health, relationships, everything. But let's just focus on health. What have you redefined around health during this time? So I'm in the same boat. Health has been redefined for me over the last 2 weeks on what that is. So. Yeah,
I think I'm still playing in that space, but let's take it categorically for a minute. So when it comes to your health of the human body, I talked with Eric Edmeades. Do you know who he is? Eric Edmeades? Really neat guy. He did the program for Mind Valley called Wild Fit, which is massively successful. He worked with Tony Robbins in his business mastery for a while. And Eric is a really neat guy. And one of the things that he talks about is that your health is really the last line of defense for this COVID-19. Right? If your body is healthy, you help the world by creating a healthy body, right? And being able to fight this virus. Well, it got me thinking about the fact that this isn't the time to cuddle up on the couch and do more ice cream. This is actually the time to take a harder look at your health and say, what does real health look like? For me, it was like, our family's doing a 30-day no sugar, right? Focus right now. So we are looking at this not as how do I feed my kids twice the amount of sugar, but how do I dial back the sugar to really look at what a healthy body looks like. All right, from a healthy financial standpoint, I will tell you that our business was probably leveraged too much. We invested too aggressively. And when I look at what's possibly ahead, I don't have enough in reserve, immediate funds accessible for what I think would be the 6 to 12 months of just like zero fear, all the cash is there, completely accessible. In my world, that was and I had multiple guys who are in businesses where, for example, in real estate, a common comment has been, I realized I was too leveraged to make it through this with, without really feeling it. Well, so to me, that's from a financial standpoint, there's investing in your business and reinvesting and rolling the dice and being a gambler on, your business. And then there's also really truly understanding that these things can happen. And by the way, just because we're in the middle of one doesn't mean a bigger one can't come almost immediately, or something else couldn't be stacked on top of this, right? It's very possible. Do I really think that society is going to collapse? No, but I think it's possible. But I'm not playing the game for societal collapse. Like, I'm not. And so here's when it comes to food as an example. My wife and I have had this conversation. Are we building a bunker 400 yards underground with blood stores and 6 years of food and, right? No. Is it possible that could be useful at some point? Sure, possible. But we're more like, let's look at 3 months of food. Like, we're looking at it like, even if there was a small hiccup in the system, we don't really have a good water filter set up for this, or, we don't even have like basic stores of food. That's an exposure where, so anyway, I could go on, but let me cut myself off because that's just a little bit about what's on my mind.
Oh, good. No, it's fascinating, and countries are taking different approaches. It's not like a collective approach, and it's interesting. Even like my partner Sarah is in Melbourne, Australia, and has just gone back into the corporate world and took a job as head of change for the second biggest bank. What a time to go into a change role. 2 weeks later, there's 35,000 employees that are trying to work from home. But just the way Australia is thinking about it, and they're only cross-state, if we're talking distances, 3-hour flight, that are still have things open, and then the way we're thinking about things. But there's just this sense of uncertainty, which is really bubbling up underneath. I don't think I have fear. It's more around uncertainty of like, well, when are people going to be able to, like, if I'm talking my business and leveraged up heavily on the live events and experiences, I'm like, well, when are people going to travel? How are they going to travel? What are they going to feel when they go traveling? It's going to be completely different. And you're just hypothesizing on what that might be in 12 months' time.
Totally. Yeah, so everybody's guessing.
So trying to bring it back, how are you feeling as a dad right now? And obviously, and serving your community of 140 dads right now, how are they feeling right now? Obviously, I would call them evolved fathers because they're part of this community that have their back. But how are they feeling? How are you feeling around that department?
I think there's a collective balance of both. We just had a call on innovative business solutions in the brotherhood, and the guy who was leading it, Pradeep, one of our brothers, he said, how many of you have actually felt like this has been positive? Some of the best family moments have come of this. Even your business might be profiting in ways that you didn't expect, or that you're seeing an uptick in things and you're grateful for them. How many? Hands went up. How many of you have seen cuts? How many of you have fought more than ever before? How many of you have lost it? It's like, and all the hands went up, and it's like, it's all there. But in many ways, it's like the human experience has never been more real than right now. And I think what the guys are experiencing is that you can't, like, in this moment, it feels like, they're not running and hiding. I guess that is an option, but they're not running and hiding. They're facing these things. They're learning more about their kids than they've ever learned, right? Oftentimes we ship out our kids to school and we go to our work or we go on the road, and all of a sudden, when you're spending this much time with your family and your spouse and your children, you are being thrust into a knowing of their positives, positive qualities and challenging qualities all at one time, which is why what's interesting is everything's being amplified. And so problems are amplified, solutions are amplified. People that are, listen, on the sad side of things, domestic abuse calls are up, right? Child abuse is up, and so there's a lot of happening. Even somebody said to me the other day, our group, we have a very fortunate group of men who are very enlightened and evolved beings. But, what about the kid who's trying to escape an abusive parent, going to school, and now their dad maybe lost their job or their mom lost their job, and they're drinking more than ever before because alcohol sales went, right? But there's so much to this that our community is feeling it deeply and coming together and asking the big questions. So here's what we're doing, right? What we're doing is we're having meaningful dialogue, which is, I know you subscribe to this, right? We have these daily calls, guys are jumping on, we have usually a guest that shares 2 to 3 big ideas, 2 to 3 thoughts, 2 to 3 stories. Guys break out for 20 minutes and have dialogue around that. What does that mean? What did we hear there? How does that apply to our world? What actions can we take? Come back together, crowdsource the best wisdom. Everybody walks away with 1 or 2 ideas on how to go attack. And we're, by the way, we're talking education at home. We're talking finances. We're talking business. We're talking marriage. We're talking all the things that affect dads. But here's a big one. Ready? I got one big one for you. This is actionable, simple, and easy for guys to take away. Right now, more than ever before, as a father, as the leader of your family, as the kids are watching, is to ask yourself what's more important than whether or not you've dialed in your homeschooling plan, or whether or not you can keep your kids learning math or English or whatever, to not get trapped in that space, but to ask yourself, what values are your kids learning right now? Because the truth is that we all really know that we live in a world where you don't really need to know math, and you don't even really need to know grammar. It's wonderful. Look, my kids learn math, and my kids, I want to have them learn a little bit about English as well. But the truth is that what I want more than anything is I want to walk away from this experience saying, what values were amplified in my home? What did my kids feel more than anything at this time? Did they learn that in times of crisis, parents panic? Did they learn at times of crisis, or when things get a little tight, that it's pull into the family, forget the rest of the world? Who cares how much toilet paper they have? We have 1,000 rolls. Right? Yeah. Like, what do they learn through all the things that we do, the side conversations that you're having with your spouse or with other people on the phone and your kids are picking up? So Akira Chan, by the way, awesome filmmaker, did Little Humans, docuseries with Vishen and Mind Valley. He interviewed all these parents, and he came on and ran a dad training for us. And he walked away. The one thing for him was, he says, when you finish a dialogue with your kids, when your kids overhear a dialogue that you're having, because you're all doing work from home now, you're all talking, right? And a lot of you talk loud like I do, right? Your kids are listening to all this. Yeah. What do they conclude from this period of life? What do they conclude? So think about that. Every time you interact with a child, right? What do they conclude? You're at dinner. You're frustrated because your business is struggling, let's say. You show up to dinner, you've been getting less sleep, you're at dinner, and you bark at your kids. You raise your voice, right? You demand something because you can't handle one more person in your life or one more thing going awry. So you raise your voice and you're like, you lay the law down. Well, what does a child conclude from that? A child concludes that if you really want to get power and you want to lead, you need to raise your voice and you need to demand that people follow suit, right? And that they don't have a voice when you're in power. And then what you'll notice is your kids start talking to other people that way, and that's the value that they are learning from the way that we're behaving. So I think that part of what I'm seeing in my community, buddy, is that people need to be asking more of the questions of, does my schedule demonstrate our values? What do my kids or my wife conclude from this conversation? Because I've screwed this up so many times. Like, look, here's the other thing I said to the guys that they really appreciated was, this is not the time to go dump on your wife. Now, I'm just talking to the dads here. Dads, I'm just talking to you for a minute. You might be scared and you might be worried about your business and things might be, but here's the thing. Your wife is not your therapist. And your wife is not your dumping ground for all your problems where you can act strong and powerful to your team. And then at the end of the day, you come back and you just unload on her your fears and your terrors. And like, well, she's my best friend. She's supposed to be there. I was supposed to be able to tell her everything. It's like, no, here's what you need. You're supposed to be honest with her. But your wife needs her man. She needs somebody who's a powerful leader. That I tell our guys, I go, that's why you have front row dads. Because this is where you have the vulnerable conversation. This is where you open up. This is where you say that you need help. This is where you talk about how fearful you are, because we're going to build you up. We're going to tell you we got your back. We're going to give you solutions so that you can go back in front of your kids and your wife, and you can lead powerfully and go tell them everything's going to be fine and that you've got this and you're going to handle it, right? And that's what people need right now, is they need that. But we also need places to be like, oh shit, I'm scared. I'm terrified. Like, we need places for that too. Guys don't have to be the rock all the time to all people. They need a place to be like, I need help. But they also need to realize that their wife and their kids are not their dumping ground for their problems right now. And they need to be strong for them.
And we've all been guilty at this. And yesterday is a prime example, like obviously in a co-parenting relationship, and Sarah, my partner's over in Australia and isolated. Who knows when we're going to be able to see each other. So we have this immense complexity of Sarah being in Australia, me here, and my ex-wife literally being around the corner, and all kids are superhumanly connected. So we've got this amazing jigsaw puzzle that we're trying to navigate, and 90% of the time is good. But yesterday it was one of those days, as you said, like the values that you lean into during crisis will reflect on how it's dealt with all down the track. And I have young kids, so totally going through my mind is like, yeah, they're 7, 6, 5. I got 5 kids under 7. So what between me and Sarah? So what are they picking up on this environment right now? And yesterday I overscheduled the calls or work time, and of course, like, you put this unfair pressure on you during a time of crisis and go back in, and one little thing will fire you off and you'll raise your voice. So let's put up our hands and say it's not perfect all the time, but it's at least jotting your memory to stick to values through these times.
I only know this, Steve, because I messed it up so much. See, I went to Tatiana. I was like, here's what I heard. The world, and she's like terrified. She's like, you just scared the shit out of me. And I failed at that. I have yelled at my kids during COVID-19. I have overreacted. I have been so frustrated by things, or that I haven't been sleeping well, that I've snapped. And I only share this because these are reminders for myself as much as they are for any other human.
Yeah, totally. And the pressure, how are you feeling like the pressure? And again, this is across the board, but this is laser focusing around dads or people that actually know, people that are kind of like the breadwinner in the house. And Sarah is at the moment. The pressure to be able to reinvent yourself or get through this time, like how are you coping with that pressure? Because we're in a similar space with community, connection, belonging, live experience is a part of our things.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with that pressure of everything coming through on our feeds, where we have a hyper evolved feed coming through social media going, should do this, you should do this, you should take time to think about this. How are you dealing with that? Because right now I'm feeling so much ton of pressure with all these thought leaders out there that we respect pivoting so quickly. And I'm like, I just don't have time.
I feel it too. And I think you go back to the things that work, right? So for us, it was going back to, for a couple of days, for like 10 days, I wasn't working out as much. I wasn't meditating. I was waking up early and I'd turn on a movie just to stimulate my mind, and I'd work on email while I'm watching a movie, like 2 hours before the kids would wake up. At night, we were so exhausted that we turn on another movie, and we'd eat a little more sugar, and like things started to cascade downward. And I said, we need to go back to what works. We need to go back to exercising in the morning, to taking hikes outside, to meditating at night and not watching TV. We need to go back to like treating each other with love and kindness, and realizing that, and almost like this is a surrender of, hey, there are a lot of things out of your control. But the truth is, what matters most at the end of the day is like, look, we get maybe 100 short years on this planet as human beings. And the truth is, dude, if we all had to live together, if we all had to be like, well, we all lost our houses, let's all move into one house, and we might all throw our hands up at the end of the day going, God, isn't everybody so happy that we all lost our businesses? We all live together now in this commune, and we're all growing vegetables in the backyard. Isn't that freaking awesome? Like, wasn't this the best thing that ever happened to us? I mean, the truth is that at the end of the day, and I teach my kids this all the time, is like, at the end of the day, we can ultimately say that if we had a tent in the back, a tent in somebody's backyard, and we were just starting from scratch, so be it. Like, the way to relieve the pressure is just to realize that if you have each other, and somebody goes, I don't like to play that game, John. That's playing lame. I'm gonna thrive during this. I'm gonna make millions during this. I go, great, good. But at the end, I like to play both scenarios. That there's nothing that can happen here that's gonna totally knock me off my game, because I'll literally move in with Hal and and Berghoff, and we'll all move in together, and we'll grow a farm, and we'll all be okay.
Oh, mate, there's the discussions happened, and I thrive on that that thought process, is that leveraged up in housing and real estate. And geez, what does it really matter right now? But we've got a tent in our lounge right now, and the kids, just like all three of them, are sleeping in there every night.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm prepping for the next 6 months when we actually have to move that tent outside. They're well equipped for it. They've maybe that's the way. To finish off, the Front Row Foundation, and obviously we've been supporter of that at Exchange. Front Row Foundation is just incredible what you guys are doing, and I just want to pay my respect for what you're doing, is giving people front row moments and the connection with Front Row Dads. Talk about Front Row Foundation, and obviously I'll share these links afterwards to people who go and read the book. But tell us about Front Row Foundation.
Yeah, man, it's a cool charity. Been around 15 years. Started with a group of friends who just wanted to do something nice for people. That's it. And so we ended up raising a couple $1 million and creating these events, and it's been awesome. And we have a new website going live next week, I think. So frontrowfoundation.org. Really simple mission of wanting to bring light and bright moments to people in their darkest days. We call ourselves moment makers, and we just believe that showing up for people when they're having a difficult time is very important, that compassionate element of life. And look, there's 1,000 things that are good to do with your time and your dollars. And I'm not in the business of comparing good deeds. I'm in the interest of, hey, let's all do something nice for people. We all have a mission. We all have a way that we can do that. And this was ours. We just we all have a heart for these. We love these live events. We tend to attract a group of people who love going to concerts themselves. They love sporting events. They love creating great memories with their families. And at the end of our lives, when we look back, that's a lot of what we have is our memories and our moments. And our lives are made up of these highlight moments in our life. And so we wanted to just to do our part in creating these moments for people. So people can learn more about it at frontrowfoundation.org. We wrote a book about it called The Front Row Factor, which is available on Amazon. If you wanted to read the stories and everything we learned about living life for people fighting for it. But yeah, man, it's a great charity. We took a pretty big hit, as you can imagine. During times like this, charities some of them will thrive because they're in the business where right now their mission's more important than ever. Food banks or something like that for people that are out of work and whatnot. Our charity took a little bit of a hit, and I think a lot of charities will take a big hit. But it's 10% of the U.S. economy, so it's a big part of it.
And just even we live a life, and when the kids are going around, it's like, how do we create a front row moment? So we actually use it throughout the weekends when I have the kids and stuff like that. Is like, how do you create? And I think you said it's like, how do you create a front row moment for someone else? And just having that thought. And a front row moment is a simple thing of whether it's reaching out to, and this is the perfect time to create front row moments for other people, but reaching out to a person that, and this 30 days of 30 evolved conversations has literally been that. Is like, I've been connected to some people for over a few years to go out and just have a front row moment. It's like, here, how can I be of service? Hey, can I give a practical example of this that somebody could do today or this week during this whole home quarantine thing? Do it. Yeah. So let me tell you guys what I've been doing, and it's been a huge hit in our house, and our guys at the Front Row Dads love it. So every week I print a picture of my children. I'm holding one up in case you can't see this. This is my son, Tiger. He's 10, and he's got a fishing pole, and he has been passionately fishing lately, all right? I'll just show you these other two pictures real quick. That's my son, Ocean, and he's kind of jumping from this one wooden beam to another. And then I got one of my wife who dressed up for a costume
party that we did with the Front Row Foundation. So there's Tatiana. Now, I print a photograph of each of my family members every week, and on the back, I write a handwritten note, and I give them out to my family every single week. And I'm trying to call out their strengths. So, the idea is catch your kids doing something right. Catch your wife doing something right. A lot of what we do as parents is don't touch this. Don't talk to your brother that way, right? Stop doing that, right? And it's a lot of don't do these things. But what we want to do is we want to catch them doing the right thing and saying, I see brilliance in you. I see genius in you. I see a strength right there. Let me call it out because you might not even have recognized this. So for my son, Tiger, right? The back of the note says, Dear Tiger, it's a joy to watch you learn to fish. When you find something you're passionate about, you go all in. You learn how to do it. You stay persistent, and you'd stay out there for hours until you caught your next fish. Trying new bait, trying a new spot. Those are skills of somebody who's adaptable and flexible. Love forever, your papa. So I write this note on the back, and then I hand them out, and I read them in front of the whole family. And by the way, I only used to do it for the boys, but then I started doing it for my wife. And what I found was she lit up when I did this, and my boys saw me do something nice for mom. And so they started treating her better because I started treating her better publicly. Does that make sense? Like I started showing why is mom a rock star? Here's all the cool things about mom, right? So I think this is something we can all do. We can take these pictures, we can print them out on my home printer. This is Canon 4x6 semi-glossy or photo-glossy paper, printed on my home printer, and I hand them out. And you know what's cool about this, Steve? When you and I were at lunch in Ohio, we talked about TouchNote.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
You told me about TouchNote, which is the app where you can upload a picture and send it like a postcard. And I think that was part of what led me to do this, man. It's that the iterating on an idea, and also my buddy Larry Hagner, who did something like this, and also Berghoff was doing this at Exchange, where he would have those postcards with the praise cards. But I thought, rather than a postcard, we should be printing real pictures, and we should be doing this on a regular basis. And so now we hang them up in our living room on this big string with clothespins, and they just hang there. And at the end of the year, imagine your kids get a stack of these, and at the end of their life, they get a box of these. And it's all these handwritten notes from dad about all my strengths, and all these highlight what we call front row moments in their lives. So anyway, just an idea that you guys could take and run with. I need to name it. Jim Shields has that really cool family board meeting name. I love that. I think it's such a cool idea. I need to name this one.
What are you naming it? Come on, what are you naming it in your household?
What is that?
What are you naming it? What's the name?
I don't know. I don't know. We don't even have a name. I need to come up with one. So if anybody comes up with a name, you can have a free year membership in Front Row Dads if you come up with a cool name that we end up rolling with.
I love it. And the whole iteration of ideas. And that's the great thing about community connection and belonging, whether it's being part of Front Row Dads, being part of Evolve, being part of Exchange. I think that is key. Just how you gave that example. It's 4 or 5 people that are doing great things that are similar, and it's just and it's weird because I do TouchNote because I'm in a co-parenting environment, so I have to send postcards to the other house and across the sea to Australia. But my 3 kids are just watching some TV at the moment, and it's what are we doing today? Well, we can print out photos here. You don't have to wait for a postcard. So that's really going back to front. And the other thing is books is the next thing I've done. Is when I at the end of each year as a co-parent, I do a book of each child on the year since we've been, and so in 10 years' time, I've got volume 1 through to 10, like the old it's Encyclopedia Britannia is just, and they help co-create those books and what moments and photos they want in those books to have their Facebook memories printed, I suppose. So I appreciate everything today, man, and one day I really do hope that Jon comes down this way and shares some wisdom with dads down this part of the world, and who knows, an Evolve event sometime soon. So thanks, Jon, for all your time, your wisdom. Keep up the amazing work, and keep printing pictures of kids and wives.
Thanks, brother. Good to talk with you, man. This is fun.
No worries.